Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for taking time out of your very important day of the week. I think Saturday is one of the most important day of the week to join us here
I
today for
agree.
this much needed, yes, much needed and important discussion. We're going to be discussing embracing intentional motherhood, looking at your transition into um, navigating your transition into motherhood in a nutshell. And I am so glad that I'm not having this conversation alone. I am joined, I have a powerhouse joining me, Mrs. Ayo Ayeni. She's one person that I'm so grateful that I got to cross paths with through the Taiwo Akilami Academy. Let me talk little bit about the academy. It's one place that if you are invested in giving the best to your child. It's a place that you should want to be connected with. It's led by a very exceptional personality, Mr. Taiwo Akila, me, my boss, and he has dedicated his entire life to safeguarding, securing a friendly and protective environment for children. The way he does it, I don't know. Day and night, ensuring that no child is abused under his watch. And I think this is profound. So I'm grateful that out of this, I got me somebody like Mr. Ayoni. I think sometime early me this year, we had a conversation that resonated with me. I don't think she will even remember, but it was something that made me feel that my feelings were validated, and I'm not alone feeling the way I was feeling, and I'm not odd to be feeling that way. So I want to take this opportunity to welcome Miss Irony. And but before I yield the floor to her, I'd want to read out her profile. As I told you, she's a powerhouse. Um, Mrs. Ayo Ayeni is a business and family life strategist and consultant with a practice that supports women by far one of the most transitional periods of their life, one of is motherhood. She does this through her company, the Haven Advocacy Company. It renders the much needed dynamic support across prenatal, mental health, family life, child protection, parenting, and parental leave coaching. She seeks to build a haven for women, irrespective of their personal and career stages and choices. She brings the concept of human centered design to life in policies and cultures in a way that it serves both organizations and the humans. Her work is based on over 13 years' experience cut across different sectors: media, public, aviation, and medical sector. Her deep understanding and knowledge of the holistic and dynamic nature and support that women need at home and at work is a driving force. She's a postpartum support international and Center for Prenatal Leave Leadership trained. Her expertise includes leadership, strategy, processes, and culture development as rudiments of customer centricity. You can see that it is a lot. She enjoys developing new ideas, better ways of doing, and automating things, and devising visible solutions to everyday problems. She's also a member of the Taiwa Kilami Academy faculty, which is something I said earlier. She is a driven, resourceful, proactive, funny, and positive individual. You can see she's been all smiles. She's that kind of person. So I am
I
honored
know
to have
that's
her
making
join
me
me
smile.
today. No,
Thank
no.
you.
Your smile is it radiates a lot, and I
Thank
must
you.
say that I'm
Thank
so
you.
grateful. Like I came up with this idea last minute, and this is me with I don't even think I even have a platform. I don't have a following, but I just wanted to do this, and I felt like it's a calling, and I felt like other people could be feeling this and just looking for other people to validate their thoughts. And I wanted to do this, and I
Absolutely.
spoke about it with her. And she was like, just give me the time and date, and I'll be here. And so I just wanted you to also help me thank her. So let me yield the floor to Mrs. Ayo Ayeni before we get
Thank
into
you.
today's
Thank you.
conversation for her opening statements. The floor is
Thank you
yours, ma'am.
very much, Susu. Well, to be honest, I mean, you skipped that I'm also Taiwo Akinlami Academy trained. I mean, that's we're always very proud of the
No,
academy.
I said that. I said, yeah, I said that. Maybe I didn't.
Right.
I
So,
think I did.
well, I also want to thank you for the
Yes,
work
she's
that
a
you're
proud
doing
member of the
again
academy.
because right. Thank you for the work you're doing really because you know Pastor Lakrisha, you mentioned something like, social work. I mean, people in this sector are, I think that Sophiat is out off, but we're still live, so I'll just go on and wait for her.
No, I'm here.
People who
I'm here.
do,
I just
all
wanted
right,
to yield the
okay.
floor to you.
Oh, great. People in the social sector form one of the strongest bases of every community. And we know how important motherhood is in the grand scheme of things, family life. And so I also wanted to thank you for the work that you do. Sefiat is very humble. She's an amazing. She's like the engine of the academy. She's the one that does all the all the back end work
Don't
running
leave my
around
head.
to make sure that to make sure that everything works out fine. So thank you for having me, and thank you for this platform, because as you mentioned, we have to start talking about these issues because we want to end just that culture of silence, just that culture of shame and isolation, and this is the way. So thank you for your work.
Thank you so much, ma. As you said, I've ended the culture of silence, not continuously being quiet about these things, because I think that there are a lot of realities that comes with motherhood that we don't get to talk about a lot. The changes that comes with it, sometimes it's so scary. How it basically resets your priorities, changes, everything changes, and then we don't get to hear people talk about it a lot. What we see
Absolutely.
out there is the media romanticizing what motherhood is, just showing the the aspects that are so beautiful to look at. But I'm trying to say that we should also talk about the realities that it entails, because when we don't talk about it, we make so little the challenges, the work that comes in. Because I always say that it's not a walk in the park. It's a lot of work.
Absolutely.
So
Mhm.
it's something we need to be cautious and intentional towards. And as a 3-star general who has been in this journey, 3-star general, I want you to, what are the things that came to you as as you transitioned into this journey, and how did you get to navigate them? Um, and things that you didn't expect. Just basically how you were able to how you navigated these things as you transitioned into motherhood. Thank you.
Oh, well, I think that when
I
most of us
you
are
got my face running.
transitioning, I did. I think that when most of us are transitioning, we're not even aware that we're transitioning, because you're expected to go to school. I mean, depending on, maybe go to school or learn a skill, get a job, or start making money, get married, and have children. It seems to be so scientific, so basic, so normal. So most of us don't even know what we are getting into, right? But I think for me, transitioning, one of the first things that I felt the hardest was just my change of identity. I'd like to consider it more like a loss of my identity. It felt like I'm this, because when a baby is born, so is a mom, right? So you're born, that your motherhood is literally birthed as you birth your baby. So I think for me, it was just that identity shift that was one of the hardest for me. It was crazy. So everybody stopped. So basically, my name is Ayo, and everybody calls me Ayo. And then all of a sudden, everybody wanted to be calling me mommy, mommy. I vehement, because I mean, like, it was a process. Please, it felt like I was forgetting who I was. I can't explain it. Like, I was, like, who I was dying, and then there's this new person I don't know that was training. So I think for me, ironically, that was the strongest, most profound, most immediate one for me. And because I also had a NICU baby with my first, NICU is neonatal intensive care unit. So when you have a baby that needs to be further taken care of, so you don't have your baby and you're going home, you're having a baby that needs to stay in the hospital. I think again, just the stress, because I mean, there was no breather. That was like a boom, like you're inside this thing. Hey, you have started motherhood.
Yeah,
So I think those were the two most profound, most immediate um, challenges of transitioning for me.
Wow, this is like when you talk about calling yourself mommy this, mommy that. I think it's an ongoing work with me right now. I hate it, especially when my husband says, "Mommy fatty." Like I
Forget
don't
it.
want to hear it.
I,
He does not understand how it makes
I,
me feel. But it's
I
like
spoke
I
to my
am more than
mother-in-law.
just mommy this person.
For me, I was direct in my communication. I spoke to my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, my sister-in-laws, my mom. Of course, I'm a daddy's girl. My dad never stopped calling me Ayo,
Yeah.
so that's good.
Yeah.
I think that my siblings, of course, maybe when I had to come, my siblings would make fun of me just to tease me, like "mommy,
Just
mommy,"
it. Yeah.
just being naughty. But I had like that straight up conversation because, I felt like, so who am I now? What does this mean? Does this mean Ayo is gone? Yeah. So me,
I
I challenged it. I spoke to everybody with a very straight face, so they knew that no, this is not a joke. Anyways, I'm glad I have understanding. I had understanding humans around me. Anyway, so I think it helped.
okay. Wow. That's this is quite profound. Okay, and as I had earlier said, which you also agreed with me, motherhood is not a walk in the park. It's a lot, and it comes with its good days, bad days, rough days, and most
Absolutely.
often we tend to be overwhelmed with everything as it comes at you. It's w- like using myself, I have had a lot of times that I would just want to disappear in the midst of everything. It's not that I am not grateful. I am beyond grateful. My child is the one thing that keeps me sane. Like just seeing her is it's a delight for me. But in the middle of everything, I feel as if I am just giving, losing myself, everything, and I just want to cry out. So this overwhelming feeling, I've come to understand that a lot of women go through it. So what are your tips on overcoming this? Is it something you overcome with time? Is there like a strategy to adopt, follow? As in, like, how do you navigate through it? Because it's one important part of that journey. It's one of
I
those
agree.
feelings associated with it.
I agree. So, I have like for all the moms in our support group, we have this formula that seems to work. I think that my first step towards navigating these feelings, these emotions, is number one, validating them and finding people who would validate them as well. So we agreed that let's not fight this thing. So when we are overwhelmed, we have a right to be overwhelmed. When we have feelings of grief, like maybe I grieve my pre-pregnancy body, I grieve that I could up and leave at any time. I could plan a girls' night out if you're a social butterfly, that you could just decide I'm going out and that's it. Those are valid things to grieve, but these are not things that we're allowed to speak out loud. As you said, it will make you seem ungrateful. Like, oh, no tragedy happened. Your baby is healthy, you're healthy, you have food in your belly, clothes on your back, a roof over your head. So, what's your problem? I think that the first stage is for us to, first of all, validate these feelings, understand that it's okay for you to feel this way. Motherhood is tough. It's okay for you to feel this way. You have never been a mom if it's your first. You have never been a mom of two children if it's your second. If it's your 100th child, I hope nobody gives birth to 100 babies, but if it's your 100th child, I do hope that you know that you have never been a mom of 100 babies. So every birth, every child is very new, and all your feelings are valid. So once we stop trying to, what's the word now, fight those feelings, I think that half of the problem is solved. So if you feel like screaming, you feel overwhelmed, and you're able to validate to say, you know what,
Yeah.
I've tried. Like I haven't had 24 hours sleep in the last month put together. That is real. Then I think the next step again is then actualizing, like actually looking at the facts. Like, okay, I've been up all day, I've been being a baby, a mommy to this baby, I've cooked and cleaned and nursed. Even if you're not cooking and cleaning, you have nursed this baby, you've had a lot of mental um chores going on in your head, planning, what do I do? I need to express, oh my God, I need to sterilize baby stuff. So all of those things, they are mental loads and it counts. So first of all, stop, validate the feeling, stop trying to clash with the feeling. Two is get logical. So list out all the things you've done all day to say, wow, anyone who does this thing should be cranky, or whatever it is you feel. Or anyone who does this should really be overwhelmed. Or even if somebody else won't be overwhelmed, I am overwhelmed. And then when you start accepting those facts, I think that that is a beautiful road to wellness already. And then seeking help, because you will realize that, okay, now I need help. So what can I then do? I think I'm now going beyond the scope of the question. I hope not, but those are some of the things that I think every mom needs to do in those period when it gets too much and you are seeing the other side of motherhood that is not very pretty.
Yes, right said. Right, well put there. As somebody even commented and said, nursing itself is a full-time job, and which is a
I
job. Nurse,
agree.
it's not just because
I agree.
let's say you have outsourced everything and you're just nursing, and then you feel like you're doing nothing and just nursing. Nursing itself is a job. It's a lot.
I
It goes
agree
into it.
completely.
Yes. Okay. I feel that often if becoming embracing intentional motherhood also has to do with you prioritizing your dreams, your aspiration. All that doesn't have to go to the back burner because you are now a mother. Because
I
if
agree.
you do that, you will continue to even resent yourself. You continue to you will never feel fulfilled. Like, as much as motherhood opens you up to a lot, sometimes it even opens you up to dreams that you didn't even think that you wanted that comes up. So, and it's also not easy navigating career, motherhood, and all that comes with it. So how do you tend to manage it? You do so much as a person based on your career and even as a mother. How are you able to do that? What are your tips for mothers on finding a way to navigate all that and still remaining sane in the middle of it all?
Girl, saying is important because most of us
Hello,
nearly
ma'am.
lose it, right? Can you hear me? Okay. I said saying is important because many times, many of us
Yes, I can.
quietly nearly lose our sanity. So I'd like to say that for me, the most important factor is two things: is agree with yourself what you want to achieve, because uh,
Okay.
I know that when one becomes a mother, it seems as if you're juggling a million things per time. This was not the days when you could experiment with a lot of things, for most of us. So I think it's just sitting down to say, okay, so what are the things that would make me fulfilled? Because let us be clear that you are a human being, full person with all your rights and your individuality, and so is your child. I was joking with someone today that none of my children is like me, not one. So I'm having to manage my individuality and their individualities as well. So understanding that you are important, your life matters as well is very critical. Understanding that they will pursue their dreams someday after you have done a good job, hopefully, is also very important, because I know that a lot of moms struggle with feelings of guilt, in that area. You just feel so guilty. Oh my God, I'm leaving my baby, I'm putting the baby in a crash, oh my God. So I think that is, first of all, understanding what your priorities are, understanding what really would make you happy and fulfilled, and then basically moving on to the next stage, which is then how do I get it? So if you decide that I'm somebody who I don't want to work from home, because working from home, as somebody said, is a full-time job. We have people like Lagos housewife, for example, who said in all our wildest dreams, she never really dreamt of herself as somebody getting an office work. And that's valid and that's beautiful and that's amazing.
Yeah.
She found what makes her happy. So I imagine that she's a CEO in Shell. She'll probably be miserable. So finding
Yeah.
what that one thing is for you, maybe experiment a little bit, helps. Two is then the journey of, okay, this is what I want to do. and so I'm just going to go ahead and do it. I think it requires the village. I know that this word has become such a buzzword. Everybody is throwing around the village. But let me tell you, make no mistake, the village is critical. For me, my village was my parents, really. My brother, my sister, my husband, my school teacher. And this is where, I mean, if you I think that there's a material in the academy, tell me about before you choose a school for your children or something like that. The school is
Yes,
a
there is.
village village. Like they were one of like my strongest support systems, because as a new mom at the time, I remember that, I mean, I have to go to work. And I think also that I had this conversation with myself. I got rid of the guilt. Like, okay, I got to do what I got to do. Babies don't grow in love, right? And this is what I want. So you have to have those conversations with yourself. And if that is not enough, have a conversation with a trained ears or a support system that can help you validate those feelings, because those feelings of guilt are very, very, very legit. Um, and then again, just find your village and make it structured. So I have people that if I'm running late for school, I had teachers whom I knew would stay back. I knew that I could call my brother. I knew that I could send money for a cab. I knew that there was somebody, that would help me to, figure that out. And I know that that's speaking from a place of privilege. Not everybody has this support system in place like that. Spend your money on your support system. So there are schools now that offer you to leave your kids in school till 6. I think I did that a few times with my children when I
Yeah.
moved far away from my parents. So they will wake there, they will have their lunch, bathe them, change them. It'll be like their home, support them with their homework, and they're playing around. So those are some of the things that you might want to invest in if that village is not really readily strong or available for you. Find resources. There's tons of resources out there that can help you and support you in that journey. But the most support system you may have may be your spouse. So have those conversations. This is what I want to do. Where do you fit in? Where what do I need to do? What do you need to do? Those are some of the ways that we can really achieve
Yeah.
those goals of self-actualization.
I cannot agree with you. I cannot agree with you less. Yes, that support system. It takes a village, as you said. It's very important. Find that what's your village. You even the society has a role to play. Everybody has a role to play in. I think mothers also need mothering, if that's a word. It's a lot,
Actually, I'm
and
sorry,
that
sorry.
support
There's something I left
level.
out.
Okay, yeah,
um it- Another support system is the workplace, and this is why part of the work we do at Haven Advocacy, we felt like in supporting motherhood, it was incomplete to just talk to moms or hospitals to screen moms for mental health disorders, or to talk to families and their spouses. The workplaces form a huge part of our support systems as well. So family friendly work policies, all kinds of things, just what's it called now? With COVID now, we now know that it's possible for you to work without being in the office, right? So those kind of hybrid
yes. I
structured
mean,
system,
COVID
yes.
implies a lot of
So
things.
that is another very critical village that I forgot to mention as well.
Yeah, it's very valid. And I often say that your spouse is also not a mind reader. Most times you just feel
Absolutely.
like they should know you need support. Your or spouse, significant other, or even people around. You should. Most times you don't. And I feel that support is not just with things they do. Even emotional support is also quite important, and they come in
Mhm.
here. So at this point we'll be talking. I have a short spoken poetry. You know me and my spoken poetry to
Yeah,
play
I
for
I always enjoy them all the time.
just a few minutes before we continue the conversation. Thank you so much, Ma. It's titled. Let's listen to it first. Stage. It's coming on. Uh, okay. Okay. I think it's coming up now.
One afternoon, class, a student asked me, does it always have pretty to be art? And this same
Wait, I think I'm having an issue.
afternoon, class, a student asked me, always to be pretty to be art? And this same student calls me mom at least twice a week. And I think, is motherhood an art form worthy of its own gallery? And haven't I taught enough to answer this question? Haven't I watched Black and brown mothers make collages of themselves, their best and worst, glue together to make their kid motherhood an interactive masterpiece? And don't you notice something new each time? The scene changing with a blink. A new world every instant in motherhood. The oldest museum known to mankind. A collective of the world's most consistent curators creating still lifes that don't always have enough time to sit still. And maybe it looks like they need a hug and 2 vacations. Sometimes motherhood looks like we'll just add glitter and it'll be fine. And sometimes the methods are so abstract, it can take you years to understand. And I think motherhood, the eye of the beholder. And I believe it is stunning to see a mother sculpt the worst of the world off her child with one bit and say, oh baby, you look, and absolutely breathtaking to see someone's mom grow fangs in order to protect her chiquito. I know mothers who craft motherhood, little instruction, just grit. And there are stories of mothers who lift entire cars. I know mothers every day who try and lift this systems and recreate cultures on very little sleep. Because motherhood is cool like that. Motherhood is resilient and not afraid of change. Motherhood is teen mothers, is single mothers, is drag mothers, is church mothers, is house mothers, is bar mothers, is working mothers, some afternoons. It's teacher mothers. Motherhood is now. Motherhood was yesterday. Motherhood is tomorrow. And no, I guess and isn't that art?
Well, come back, or come back. I don't know if you got to listening to it. I from my end, I think I was having a bit of network glitches here and there. Ah,
Yeah, it was
Nigerian network.
glitched, but it was glitching, but I think I got the hang of it. Perhaps you
Eh,
send us a link and we can watch it. It's really beautiful.
yes, I would add the
Is she
link in the
Nigerian?
description area. No, 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 she's not. But
Oh,
I just connected to the whole message. Basically, motherhood is not so pretty, but it's art. It's art. You put in work
I
into it.
agree. She said motherhood is an art form worthy of its own gallery. I wrote that down. I like it.
Yes, it is. Wow. Okay.
And she also
This.
said you can't just add glitters and make it okay. That means you have to put in the work. Those unpretty moments will be there, right? That was really
Yes,
nice.
you just.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll drop the link to the description area so that you can all go watch the full video. I'm so sorry for the glitches. Nigerian network is on its own, but we'll survive. So, this brings me to my next question, and I think I would want to delve into an area that I think you are an expert in, which is postpartum depression, psychosis, and anxiety. So, I think during the period of pregnancy, for me, I was big on depression. What I mean big on depression, I was depressed to a large extent, and
Sorry about
I
that.
think it took my doctor to actually notice it. I just felt the whole world was dark to me and nobody else mattered, and I was just feeling so lonely and angry with everyone. And
Mm.
but somehow being able to there's something Mr. Akinami always says, which I watched the early times I first started working with him. He always said that you prophesy and speak into your child right from the womb. And I think that
Absolutely.
was something I always did, and it helped me a lot. I would in my dark
Mm.
hours keep having conversations with with my bomb, my baby, and I found that very soothing. But
Mm.
and I had always heard about um and after delivery, what I now had was now different. I was hyper anxious. I was anxious
Right.
about everything. I was always thinking worst case scenario. My
Absolutely.
baby will be with people. Yes, my baby will be with people that I would ordinarily feel safe, and they are supporting me, they are helping me out. I should get to rest. But I am thinking worst case scenario, like something is happening. Where is she? This and that. I'm actually also taking care of the child, and I'm thinking I'm doing this wrong, I'm doing that wrong. Like I would, and this is coming from me who craves perfection in what I do. Growing up, want I had I had to push myself to want to excel in everything. Everything I had to be best because I felt if I was not, I was failing everybody. I was failing my parents. I was failing my family. And I wouldn't say it was bad though. It was good. It drove me to excelling in my academics and everything. But that perfectionist um mindset that everything has to be this way was something I also carried with me as I transitioned into motherhood. And if things were not
Mhm.
that way, and if I felt like I was failing, I was not feeding. If my child did not eat, I would feel it has to be me. What didn't I do right? How am I not feeding this child right? Why is she not eating? And then another struggle I had was even when it got to me going back to work, putting her in crèche. I over verified, I got friendly, got close to aunties and everything. But whenever she has to be in crèche, I am still my mind is never settled until she's back from crèche. It should have given me time for me to relax and be okay, but I will still be hyper anxious. Like I don't say that is me or something is definitely wrong with me. What is the problem? And I think that was something I discussed with you at a certain time, and I just want to understand this whole idea of postpartum anxiety and depression? And is it something that is so common? Is it something that can be prevented? And even when you have to go through that, um, how do you get to cope with it? Is it something you overcome with time? Is there a time frame for that feeling? Sorry if I'm blabbing too
I
much.
mean, like you're not blabbing at all. I'm only laughing because I mean, like, this is one of the most talked about issues. And in fact, we had that conversation on Sunday, which was the last support group. And these are a bunch of women who are not even Nigerians; they are Americans and Canadians. And this is the exact same thing that they say. Like, I can't relax when people are so. I mean, we're navigating, or we are going into the holidays now. Family is going to be around. As
Yeah.
the only African in the group again, there's the African dynamics of community, which they don't really have.
Yes.
Um, I'm like, okay, you guys don't want to come back from vacation or holiday and have no friends, and all your families have just abandoned you because you were very jittery. I mean, we had a laugh over that, but it's a really huge, extremely common. So when you say how common, we call them perinatal mater, um, maternal mental health or perinatal mood and anxiety disorders. Um, and it is actually the most common complication of pregnancy and childbirth everywhere in the world. I'm very sure most people don't know this, but it is, because it affects about 20% of women and about a good number of men as well. 1 in 10 will be 10%. Even men, are not left behind in the impact of the mental health issues that comes with pregnancy and childbirth. So first of all, how common it is it? It is the most common complication of pregnancy and childbirth. It happens way more than preeclampsia, with again all of those other complications which are also important, which we need to pay attention to. I'm sorry, my voice is so cracked today. I think it's the holidays. Okay. Yeah. So
I'm
it's
preparing
actually
for the
very.
Christmas.
I'm telling you, I'm in
Okay.
the mood. So it is actually the most common complication. 1 in 5 women are very globally, and this is even US data. We don't have homegrown data in Nigeria. So I'm thinking if we had homegrown data, that those numbers may be even higher. Who knows? But global average, 1 in 5. So that's quite a good number. And all the things you said about being in and this is why we at Haven Advocacy, we continuously advocate for screening women in pregnancy and postpartum, because that is the way to kind of get started on the conversation. That's the way to get started on getting them support and help that they need. So everything you said, let me tell you, is not unique to you. And perinatal mood and anxiety disorders, I've already talked about how common they are those mood disorders, that those things that impact our mental health, um, as it relates to pregnancy and childbirth. And I like to think of it as a spectrum. And I love the way that you kind of analyze your own experience. So during pregnancy, you were depressed. After pregnancy, postpartum, you were just anxious. So depression basically is just that loss of apathy. Things you used to enjoy before, you don't enjoy them. Could look like a lot of crying, sadness, and you can't even explain why you're sad. Eating too much or too little, sleeping too much, sleeping too little. So all of those things could look like, that is how um, postpartum or perinatal depression. We call it perinatal because it can happen during pregnancy and postpartum. So when we say postpartum, it's like we're saying only women who have given birth can have it. So that's why we prefer the term perinatal. Right. So anxiety basically is looking more like what you said. Your mind is just creating all the what if scenarios. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if? So we like to think of it as a spectrum. So there's depression on one hand, there's anxiety. You're thinking about all the worst case scenarios. And I like to think of it as our minds kind of preparing us for um, what's it called now? Our minds preparing us for, when you want to fall, there's something about when you brace yourself, right? It's instinctive. You kind of trip, and you're kind of, I think that's like something, a mind version of it, because before something happens, your brain is trying to prepare you that, oh, this can happen. And then your mind is going on and on. So what if it happens, right? And that's how anxiety could look like: worrying, you are scared a lot, um, uh, you are very jumpy, your heart is racing, those kinds of feelings. You're just generally uncomfortable. Then there's OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. So there's the obsessions, which I like to call um, anxiety on steroids. I think that's my favorite term, because beyond the anxiety of what you're thinking, you're now experiencing clear images. Like if you're anxious that, oh, baby might fall, you're actually seeing your baby falling. So those kinds of things. So it now comes with, we call them intrusive thoughts. So you have all these thoughts in your head that is not like you. Um, I mean, like, you're thinking thoughts that are actually scary to you as a person. We call them ego dystonic, because it makes you afraid. You would normally not think these things, but they are very persistent. There is nothing you can do to shake them away. Those are the obsessions. And then we have compulsions that kind of helps you to feel like you're in control of the obsessions. So those obsessive thoughts. So if you say, I'm afraid that X will happen to baby, then you then have compulsions that helps you to kind of buffer the effect of what if that happens, right? And that, I know a lot of people throw the word OCD around. It sounds fancy. It is not fancy. It's actually very, very disruptive. Then we have PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, which is basically trauma from anything that your mind considers trauma. We like to think of it, we always say that trauma is in the eye of the beholder. So two people might witness the same birth. One might say, my God, that was traumatic, I'm never doing this again. The other will be like, oh my God, that went well. So trauma is in the eye of the beholder. If you think it's traumatic, it's valid for you, right? And so those are, so it could be birth trauma, which is also extremely, sadly, very common. And it could be trauma from the past. So imagine a woman who had been abused before, now having to deliver vaginally. I mean, off the top of our heads, we can imagine how that may be triggering for that woman. That's just an example. So it could be from way back. It could be from the birth itself, maybe how you're treated, or those kinds of things. So people generally would maybe kind of just avoid. Maybe if you were traumatized at birth, you don't want to go back for your 6 weeks postnatal check. You don't want to go for your pediatrician appointment. You just want to avoid, so avoidance is one big one. Blowing things out of proportion is another symptom of that. So something maybe small. So I've witnessed this with many moms when they talk about their birth and they say, oh, she was screaming, you should have seen her. I see the instant change in their body. Like, they don't want to talk about this. They are not happy talking about this. They don't think it's funny because probably there was some element of trauma in there for them. And so that's what PTSD could look like. And then we also have things like, what am I missing? I'm sure I'm missing something, but I'll just move on to the one that everybody likes to talk about, the psychosis that everybody likes to avoid. Psychosis basically is loss of,
like
is like it's the extreme left of the spectrum for me. I like to think of it as a complete breakdown with reality, and it's a medical emergency. Most people who are psychotic, sadly, would not realize that they are psychotic. That's why it's a medical emergency. They need to get help very quickly. They've lost touch with reality, so they have grandiose ideas, delusions. They think thoughts, and unlike the obsessive thoughts, they actually agree with the thought. So they could say something like, oh, my baby's eyes is glowing red, my baby is from heaven, or my baby is from hell. And they are actually saying it, and they really believe what they're saying, right? So that's how a very fast way to differentiate, because a lot of people who have intrusive thoughts are very afraid that, does this mean I'm going to be this mom? Does this mean I will do this thing? The fact that you are worried about it alone makes you know that this is not psychosis, because in psychosis, you would usually believe what you're thinking, agree with it. Maybe you might have those breaks, but again, this is not medical advice. But basically, those are some of the ways that these things could look like. And it's a whole spectrum. And these things happen every time. 1 in 5, as I said, 20% of every person, 10% of dads, 20% of moms, 10% of dads would go through these issues. Yeah. So I hope that was a good. I'm trying to figure out what I missed, because I know I missed out something.
Okay. Thing is, how do I even tell people that this is what I'm feeling? Like, I can remember during the first 3 months when my mom was helping me out with the baby and all that stuff, and how I would always want to. I can't tell her that me, I prefer this baby to be here. Let me be seeing her. Like, this is odd
I
now.
think that
This is
I know. I think that we agree that maybe it's just those again, you can already tell from the kind of person you are. You talked about perfectionism, which is one
yeah,
of the risk factors for PMAD, sadly. When you just have this perfectionistic, you think that this is how things should be. But we know that motherhood is not clean, right? Motherhood is not straightforward, it's not
yeah.
organized. We take it one day at a time. Some people, one day at a time is too much. Some people need a moment at a time. That's all they can do per time. So I think that that perfectionistic tendencies also kind of makes us susceptible to PMAD, that's perinatal mood and anxiety disorders. Just because, I mean, it's a no-brainer. You know that you can't be the best person at everything. Your house cannot be clean all the time. Things cannot be straightforward. You can't just, wear makeup and stroll to the hospital and everything will go straight up. You cannot schedule how much time a baby will sleep or when they will start wailing. And so that can really throw off somebody who has perfectionistic tendencies because you have no control. Perfectionism is you have control all the time. So I want to make a first class degree. I'll just study for first class and I'll make first class. If anything gets in my way, I gun them down.
Definitely. Yes. And then when
Right?
it
But
doesn't
it
happen,
doesn't,
it's like your whole world is crumbling. My
right.
God.
So I think that for those kinds of things, what could help, we talked about this very one in support group on Sunday. And we said that I think just conversations are very important and boundaries as well. So if, for example, you're perfection, because just because you're perfectionistic doesn't mean that you're wrong all the time. So for example, we know that as, modern day, not, I mean, Africans, we're just trying to catch up with those kinds of proprietariness among raising children. So you don't carry somebody's baby and kiss them. I mean, you should ask, can I hold your baby, for example? You don't just show up in somebody's house, grab their babies from their bosoms just because you're here for baby. I mean, those are things that are in our culture, which is not really entirely horrible, but because we now know better, we understand some of these implications. So I think that communication really works for those kinds of scenarios. I had those issues as well, by the way. But I think just first of all, I think what I did was I first of all acknowledged that, okay, these people are here for me. They are here because they love me, right? So they may be doing the
Yeah.
wrong thing. It may not even be the wrong thing. They may be doing something I don't like. There is when something is wrong and you don't like something. So they may be doing something that is either wrong or that I just personally don't like as a matter of preference. But I know they are not doing it to piss me off. I think that's a very good internal conversation to start having when you start noticing those things coming up, and then to have that conversation with them. So I think I had this friend who puts soap and sanitizer beside her baby's cot. So that was like, okay, maybe she has
Not carrying
issues.
the
Maybe
baby
these people are
instead.
in-laws.
Yeah.
They are in-laws, and she doesn't know how to say. So those kind of cues to say, could you sanitize, please? Or could you not hold baby? We're trying not to hold her for too long. So just those kind of really calm, sensitive conversation to say, I understand that you really want to hold my baby because you love them and you're just here and you're just excited, but we would
Yeah.
prefer that this is how things are done. It's just having just the courage to have those conversations and set those boundaries are very important. And you don't have to be rude. You don't have to fight with your mother-in-law. You don't have to kick your mother out of the house. You can just be sensitive and reasonable and have those
Yeah.
communications and setting those boundaries gently until everybody gets it. People may be mad at first, but hey. But again, I think that when you can't rest, I mean, that may be going to some extremes to say, baby is sleeping, I need to sleep, or my mom is holding baby, or my baby is in this crèche that I've vetted and I have to go to work. But you see that you really just can't relax all the time. I think you now need to have maybe internal conversation. I mean, join support groups. There is power in just hearing other people's stories, how they got over it. And if internal conversation is not working, having a conversation with a support system is not working, perhaps you then need to maybe seek help in form of therapy to help you to have some coping mechanism to understand why do I feel this way? Because sometimes those feelings are very deep. They are deep rooted things. You need to get to the roots, juggle stuff up, and then come back to the surface. in order to handle them sometimes. So that's the place of therapy. Therapy gives us that understanding of why we feel the way we feel and coping mechanisms to be able to kind of navigate that phase. So those are something that you may want to do if all else fails. So you may want to have that conversation. This is my mom, and I've told them, please don't feed baby while lying down. That's just an example. Or can you check in with me every 10 minutes? Or, just put some things that may give you peace of mind in place. And then assure yourself that this is my mom. She's not very likely to do anything, so those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Or I think there was one woman who was really, there was nothing we could do. What we advised her was, you can be in the same room. So if your mom is holding your baby, or your mother-in-law, or your sister, or nanny, whoever is taking care of baby and holding baby for you, is it possible that you're in the same room with them, for example? So instead of them taking baby away to the living room or something, can you just both be in the same space? So if you, I don't know, wake up and you sleep and you have a dream that your baby is, I don't know, rolling on the floor, and you wake up and you're able to see them, that can give you some relief. Those are some starting points. Those are some places where you can start as you address the issue, because it's not going to go away in a day. Again, your feelings are valid just because you feel them. So you can start gently and work your way towards a more, I don't know, confident position where you're able to say, okay, I need to rest and my baby is okay.
You get to relax through it. And I don't know. I also feel maybe childhood trauma and all could also have a link towards all
Absolutely.
this. I don't know.
Absolutely. That's why I said sometimes if those one-on-one conversation with yourself or support, assuring yourself isn't working, perhaps that is the solution. That's why I said you may need to seek therapy to dig deep.
Yes, take care of take for that. When I first had that child, I think we had a huge crisis. We were in the hospital for a long time and a lot of health challenges. And then back home, leaving the hospital, they were like, before anybody, and I think that's like, before anybody touches your baby, make sure they sanitize their hand. They will always keep saying sepsis is real. This is that. This is that. So me communicating that to people, I know how some people got angry with me because I was trying to say this, and I wasn't saying it out of a bad place. I was just saying it because I was also considering, if you know what I went through, what this child has gone
Absolutely.
through, and how much,
Absolutely.
and if you love this child also, you should also want like the best. Even I myself once will always sanitize before I touch the child. So just putting that out there. So this gets me to just something I recently came to you know um, to start researching and understanding, and I think they call it the mommy brain.
Ah,
Mommy brain, what I call it, more like how your brain becomes more or less, which is basically associated with, let's say, forgetfulness, forgiveness, and a lot of things during pregnancy and after pregnancy. I think for during the months after pregnancy, I I had a running battle with concentrating with anything, or even I began to feel, this is me that would always get things done. I was the you are telling me I would not take no for an answer that something cannot be accomplished. That was my attitude with work. I'll go out of my way to
mhm,
do it. And then this is me
absolutely.
wanting to do a report, do a task. I will read it, it's making sense to me. I'm sure I wrote the right thing. It's getting to the finish line, and I wrote totally rubbish. To me, I crossed my T's, dotted my I's, and everything is. But it seems not right. I'll be writing a message. I have read it over and over again. I'm correct. Obi is a boy. It will get there, and I wrote Obi is a girl. So, and I was starting to feel, is it that I'm starting to become dull? Is it that all the years of educating myself and learning, like I was having this constant battle with myself, and I felt like I was failing at work, failing at everything. I was I was always breaking down, right? And then the only person that saw me that breaking because I can cry and cry to her, and she will say, okay, that she will basically tell me something that I will feel um that will put me through. But how do you communicate that kind of thing to work and say that, see, I don't even understand what is happening to me. It is not, this is it. Okay, even without the, you have already penciled out time to do this, you need to do. So it's not as if baby or something that is making you do these things. You just don't understand how it's happening to you. I don't know, is this something that
Absolutely.
is, as I said it, I read it that it's research and it's actually true. I listened to something recently. Chimamanda Adichie. There was a short clip I watched about something she was a conversation she had on motherhood. How at a point she could not write, she could not do this, and I'm like, oh, so even because she was like my literal, when we talk about book wise, Chimamanda was like my demi-goddess in secondary school, and I'm like, oh, she actually felt this way. So okay, then it's not
Absolutely.
it's something people feel. And oh, so I wanted to know if it's just if you could shed light on that, working with
I was
different
laughing
women.
because, like, I think that almost all of us, almost every mom I've met, would have this conversation, and many of us will swear by it, like we swear down. And then I think I read this research sometime how just the structure of the brain changes. Motherhood, this part gets more sensitive, all this kind of. So one part, it's what's the word? I can't really remember what the report said, but something about some parts being more sensitive because you need to hear a baby cry, that response, all those kind of things, to and other parts that the body just seems, look, this is not necessary at this time, please. This is what you need to be focusing on. I think that's just the gist of that research. I was laughing because I spoke to my GP one day, who also happens to be husband to a medical doctor wife, so they are both doctors. And his wife was saying, "Oh, I think I'm forgetting all the things." I said, "Go away, when it's home. It's not mommy brain, Coco. You just didn't study." And I was just laughing like, "What do you know?" Many of us swear by it, and I like the fact that there's a lot more conversation and research into it. But I think that navigating it for me, first of all, just know you're not alone. It's almost all of us, myself inclusive.
Yes.
And two,
Exactly.
I think it also there's an element of giving yourself grace, especially because you're so perfectionistic and uh, you know, just give. I think that it starts from a place of grace to say it is what it is. I gave birth, and this is one of the changes that comes with it, and I'm trying, but because you can't accept grace if you don't first give yourself grace. So just acknowledge that, oh, this is one of the ways that my body or my mind or my modus operandi is changing. But as regards navigating, because as you mentioned, I mean, we can't go to work and mess things up for people and all those kind of things, is also, if for example, I mean, just again, that village. So if you have a friend or a colleague at work, if you know that this is how my mommy brain, quote unquote, manifests, is that I'll do a document that looks really great, and by the time somebody else is reading, it's not as great as it was in my head. Is that, can you give a colleague or a friend your document to read before you submit to your superior or your client? So just putting those things in place, because you have to give yourself grace first. You say, well, it's what it is. I mean, like, but again, I cannot just abandon my excellent self and just give up and say, well, it's what I'll just continue to be this way. No. So those things where it manifests the most and it means the most for you, you can find buffers for it. So find somebody to vet your what's it called, your documents. For some of us, it manifests as we forget words that we've used all our lives. So I want to say, this thing is manifesting. I'm like, this thing is, oh my God, what's that word? What's that word? That was how it manifested for me. So I'm just thinking of the word manifest, right? And it's on my lips, so I just can't figure it out. So again, just using simpler words or breaking down your thoughts, or using your phone and checking out the word, whatever. Thank God for AI now. So there's all kinds of ways that we can actually buffer those impacts. You understand? How is mommy brain? I like to put it in quotes because not everybody believes in it. Manifesting for you is them that this is how I manifest and this is what I can do. There was another one that I was going to say, and again, it's just basically I think that's basically just it. And I think doing mental exercises like puzzles, I hear it helps. Crossword puzzles, those kind of things that, really just gets you, what's the word? Active, gets your brain exercising. A lot of people say it does work. So things like puzzles, crossword puzzles, guessing riddles, things like that. I hear it helps. Do I know it helps? I don't know, but it's worth trying. And it was fun for me because I actually do like puzzles. So it was win-win.
Yeah. I think for me, I'm surviving each day as it comes, and I'm being intentional towards towards it all. I'm
Give yourself grace is the
acknowledging
first
the
step. Give
difficulties I'm
yourself grace.
having, and yeah,
Give yourself grace. Understand that you didn't bring this upon yourself. It is what it is. So you can find ways to navigate. I think that Sophia had to, I think there was a knock on her door. She had to run along. So, okay, she's back now.
sorry. Okay. Yeah,
Right.
I'm so sorry about that. Sorry for the glitch.
That's fine.
So, so too late. I think I found my way through. So as we said, it's not okay. There's a word I wanted to use. What popped to my head? Okay.
Mommy brain. Don't
Now,
worry, it's mommy
no,
brain.
not even more. Yes, yes. Now, I want to speak pidgin. I'm not. My pidgin is very funny, but it's just what's coming to my head now. Now, mother, you be no be Superman. So the fact that you
That
are a
kind
mother
thing.
does not
That
mean
kind
you,
thing.
you don't have. You're not a. You don't
So,
have to be perfect. Nothing is.
Abby,
Nothing is. I don't think there's any such thing as a perfect mother.
absolutely.
You
Or
take
a
it
perfect
day
human
as it
being.
comes.
Basic.
You're perfect human beings. You are human. You will make mistakes. You learn from your experiences as you transition. You get better at it as it comes. So, and this also leads me to my final question, which is on the need to take time out and excel. I feel self care is not being selfish. It's a necessity that you need,
I agree.
and
I agree.
for getting it means get self-care. Also, you have to also be intentional towards it to be able to achieve, because you have this hectic schedule as a mother navigating
Mhm.
everything. Then how then can you prioritize self-care in the middle of this? We had women working with women conference in the Taiwan Kilame Academy, which is something to celebrating women and pointing out the importance role they play in lives of children, and also discussing
Mhm.
their challenges. And this year we discussed motherhood, uh,
Mhm.
postpartum anxiety, and all that self care. And I think Pastor Tolu Odukoya and also Miss Ayeni was one of our guest speakers, and I think she spoke about self care, and she pointed out how she takes her time, she goes to the spa, she makes sure she has a massage, she likes to have that her me time. So I'm just saying it's resonating how very important that's taking time out to exhale, let it out, and just I need to breathe too. So how do you navigate this, like to prioritizing
I
the need for
think
self care?
I think that prioritizing self care, because again, we're Africans, is that when I remember that when my baby, my up till now, when my children were babies, I would eat first before I feed a child. It, I mean, like you have to like be starving for me to know, because that for me was self care. When everything gets messy and everything does scatter, then I won't be able to eat. But now you've eaten, right? So I was just going to say that number one, self care is whatever feeds your soul. That's my idea of self-care. So some people will never go to a spa. Some people may not find it
Yeah.
relaxing for whatever reason. So I think that, so two things. Self-care is whatever feeds your soul, whatever you say it is. Two, it doesn't have to be grand. It can be something basic. In our support group, we always end our support groups with sharing what your self-care plan for the week would be. Just because sometimes saying it out loud, committing in a group can make it more effective. So you hear things like, you know what? After all I've heard today, after all the validation I feel, I think I'm going to have me a glass of wine because I deserve it. So that glass of wine is important to that mom. And maybe all through pregnancy, she was not able to have wine and blah, blah, blah. And she just waits. I've not had wine in a while, so I'm just going to have me a glass of wine this week, sometime this week. Some people will go for a massage, some people will do a bubble bath, some people will do yoga. So first of all, find what feeds your soul. Some people is just stepping out of the four walls of their home, walking 2 blocks from your house in the breeze and back, or I don't know, going up and down. And these are some of the things that can help, just movement, going up and down the stairs in your house or something, going outside for some sun or for some air. Netflix and chill is a real thing. So some of us who are very laid back, if you're the social butterfly kind of person, call a few friends, because there's this isolation also that comes with motherhood. So if you're a social kind of person, people don't want to call you up because they assume that, oh, she has a baby, I don't think she'll be up for that. Meanwhile, you are really craving, so you feel left out. You see all these things happening, and then nobody is calling you up or letting you know or asking you out. So call your friends to say, do you guys want to have breakfast, or do you guys want to have brunch sometime? Call a few friends or one friend, if that's what does it for you, if that's what satisfies you. So self-care, number one, is what feeds your soul, is pouring back into yourself so that you're not pouring from an empty cup. Because when you are taking care of your family, your child, your this, your that, thinking of your career, your boss, your this, you're pouring into. So now, how you need to refill. So self-care is something that just refills you, is invigorating. It doesn't have to be something that you now go and do yoga now. You will come back feeling more exhausted than you were before, right? Just because everybody said they're doing yoga. So find what works for you. Find what feeds your soul. It could be as simple as Netflix and chill. For me, it's my husband taking all the children out of the house and me just having to myself a clean, quiet house. That is the ultimate self-care for me. Just reminding me that, oh, I'm an individual after all. So just find what works for you. It doesn't have to be grand. It could be something, basic. As long as it fits your soul, it works. And for those of us that may be struggling with anxiety, things like grounding, things like mindfulness. So if you're thinking, what if my baby falls? What if my baby, just you drawing yourself back to the now. That, okay, this baby is in my hand, or this baby is on the bed. He hasn't started to roll yet. There is no likelihood that this baby will roll and fall. So just those kind of, dragging yourself back to the moment, or breathing exercises. Breathing exercises kind of sends that signal to our brain that we are not in danger. So, okay, brain, you can calm down now. Thank you for all these but nothing is happening yet. So just that deep breathing, and you can find this on the internet, on YouTube. Breathing exercises, just start breathing exercises. It really works for people who may be struggling with those anxiety. Grounding, putting your feet on the floor, they say it helps. So basic, just little things like that is self-care. But you have to, sometimes we have to plan it. We have to be deliberate about it. You have to fix a schedule. So maybe when baby goes to crash, I'm going to watch this movie that I saw on Instagram, or maybe after drop off. So sometimes you may have to schedule. Sometimes you may have to actually plan it. Otherwise, everything will just be falling on each other. So if you don't plan it, sometimes it may not happen. That's another. That's another element to it.
Yes, I know what you said. It doesn't have to be grand. It could just be the little things that you make out time to do for yourself, and you feel it's what works for you. It could be anything. And yes, for me, like movies. So no matter how little the time is, make out time for. And
Netflix and chill, girl.
I had to start thinking about making it being intentional towards it now. I have to press that because, and I'm trying to make sure that it doesn't only have to be at night that is the time for me, because I struggle with sleeping. As in, I had insomnia. I think it's common for a lot of, but mine, I really, whenever I'm able to sleep at least 2-3 hours, God, I'm grateful. So I try to just pencil out that little, the 30 minutes, 20 minutes. Let me just be on my own. I could just sometimes just put on the shower. Let me just be hearing the sound and be alone, and I will feel soothing, a very a soothing feeling. So, and that brings me to saying that we need to celebrate every milestone. Time is something that moves so fast. So every milestone in your transition is what's being celebrated and acknowledged. And you should also take time to reflect. It helps you with self-actualization and also your personal growth. You're here, I've done this. My struggles are not me. as my feelings are validated, and this is what I have learned through the journey, and this is where I'm going to. And I would like to acknowledge my boss. My boss is in the building, Sata Wakilami. Thank you so much, sir, for taking out time to join. This is my literally my humble platform. God, I am honored. I am beyond this house, and not just me, my family, my friends, my colleague. I am very honored to have met. Miss Olabisi, she's also here. She's also part of the Taiwan Akilami Academy, and she's also somebody that is so invested in child safeguarding and protection. So, and that's basically, and then I did this 10 amazing, like mind blowing facts about motherhood I recently came about that I would like to share with you all, just in a way of my final thoughts before Miss Ayo Ayeni gives us her final thoughts. Oh God, it's been a lot of conversation today. I just hope you all have found it worthwhile so far. Okay, I read somewhere that the average mom will have changed approximately 7,300 diapers by the time her baby reaches age 2. I can't
Wow,
say funny,
that's
7,300.
profound.
Then right profound, like it's a lot. It's a lot, but like this is actually the number. Okay, but if you think about how many diapers you change in a day, it's actually a lot. Then the longest pregnancy ever recorded lasted 375 days, nearly 100 days
Wow,
longer than normal pregnancy. It's a lot. That's a long time.
wow.
How many
I'm
days
glad
in a
I'm not that
season?
person,
As
but
we are
we are
the
glad. We
journey.
hope it ended well. We hope it ended well.
Yes, we did. Then as got that typically the first sound a baby vocalizes is the ma sound. So it makes sense why almost every language, the the word for mother always starts with M. And in a way, babies actually originated the word mother. So like
Wow.
Yoruba, it's
But that,
mama.
that's so, but that's weird because everyone complains. I mean, many moms grieve
We say,
about the fact that their dad will say dad first. So okay,
I'm trying to
this
say
is
that is it that
comforting,
the man will come up when you don't know? Like
perhaps.
me, it's just of late that I
Or
started to
maybe we
notice
are,
that she's
or maybe
actually
we are,
saying,
or maybe we are here waiting to hear mommy, and we are just disregarding the ma.
well,
I
no,
don't know
that,
something.
yes, and then we allow the man pass over us.
I guess.
Let's say it's a scientific fact. I don't know. Then the study that said that every female fetus, including your mother, developed all the eggs she will ever have, while as a fetus herself still inside her own mother. So
Okay.
basically, you this means that you started your own life right inside your grandmother. So I'm saying that you have lived decades.
Wow.
You originated right from your grandmother because the eggs are already there. Your mother's eggs was
Mhm.
there, which ultimately also gave birth to you. But I've read that so that right when a girl child is born, all the eggs she would ever develop in her lifetime has already been it's right there
Yeah.
within her.
She's born with all the
I
she's
think
born with
that's
all
the
the eggs she would ever have.
yes, with all the eggs, which yes, which will
But
later
if it's
be
any if
fertilized.
it's any
Later that will be
consolation,
fertilized.
an egg is
Yeah,
not an embryo. So for the ones
it's not though.
that are feeling
Because if
freaked
you say
out and weirded out,
that
don't
all
get
the eggs are
freaked
already
out.
there, don't get freaked out.
Okay.
Yes, because at the end of the day, I think it's those eggs that don't get fertilized that end up being the
Yeah, in
menstrual.
our periods,
I think
yeah, every
yes,
month.
periods, because I think menstrual cycle is continuous, is a period that is the
Right.
discharge and all that. Then also I read that the fetal heart races faster when hearing the voice of a mother versus that of another person, and it's always soothing. So that's
Wow.
why usually children are mostly calmer babies when sometimes when they are fuzzy, it's only the mother that can calm them down. And it's just scientific facts and everything. Then another says a baby begins listening to their mother's speech in right in the womb. heard that also
Okay.
somewhere. Then breast milk confers all sorts of immune system benefits and may even protect against HIV. The HIV part I don't know, Sha, but I do know
Wow.
that they say the breast milk is quite big on preventing a lot of things, and that I read something where they said that as the baby suckles and breastfeeds, there's also a sort of discharge into there's a passage into the mother that also produces some sort of antibiotics, I don't know, that the baby still
Mm.
suckles back when the baby breastfeeds. That is mostly in at times when the baby has some sort of bacteria or infection or something, that also in a way
Oh,
fights against them. So it's like an exchange. I read it somewhere, just facts. Then for premature
okay.
babies, skin to skin contact with the mother improves health and helps with weight gain.
Absolutely.
That we often call it the
Yes.
kangaroo care, and
Yes.
it's a lovely thing, skin to skin. And we would always say also, if, apart from the baby being premature, just having that skin to skin contact is so profound. Like I still miss those moments, and I always say that the significant other should also have that should also practice that.
Absolutely.
It's very
Right. So it's not,
important.
skin to skin is not just for moms; it's also for dads as
Yes.
well.
Yes. Then finally, a mother's brain may contain cells from her children. During
Wow. No
pregnancy, the
wonder we have mommy
placenta,
brain.
yes, mommy brain. During pregnancy, the placenta links the mother and the fetus, allowing nutrients to flow from mother to fetus and waste to move in the opposite direction. The organ is built from cells from both of them, and the cells can migrate through there, ultimately ending up in different parts of the mother's body, her brain, another place, and it keeps multiplying for years. So, the difference, you could have more than one, as you give birth to your children, each of them, you in a way carry parts of them in you. So, those are my interesting facts which I found amazing. I was able to share with you.
Very interesting.
Thank you,
I found some
ma'am.
of them interesting.
Interesting and quite true. Okay, so I'll use the floor to Miss Ayoni to give us her final comments before we
Oh, well,
round
my
up
final
our
comment
session today. Yes.
is almost always the same. Is that motherhood is beautiful, is amazing, but I kid you not, it's also not easy. It's not for the faint-hearted. As Sefi said, it's not a walk in the park. So give yourself grace. If you are feeling any kind of way, your feelings are valid. Seek help. Someone talked about in the chat the role of spousal support is very critical. I think that we did not have time to gloss over that, but it's really important that you have your significant other. Being a support system to you can be very, very profound. It can make a lot of difference. But give yourself grace. Ask for help. There is no award for superwoman and superhuman. Um,
Yes.
yeah, but all in all, most of the time, you're doing an amazing job. Even though you second guess yourself, even though you think, "Am I sure I'm the best mom for this child?" You are, just because you birthed the child, and because you're worrying, you're going out of your way, also means that you're doing a lot just to represent that epitome of what your baby needs. And you're amazing. You're doing a lot, but ask for help, seek support, and I wish all of us happy mothering, I guess, which is a long time, lifetime work, by the way. And thank you for having
Yes.
me, Sophia. It's always so amazing to have these conversations. It's what I live and breathe. Supporting the human, I mean, and again, the needs of mothers and families, because we are so rooted and emotionally involved in our families, is so broad. And this is why one of the services that we render is things like child protection, things like parenting, things like, and again, these are things that you can find at the Academy, Taiwo Akinlami Academy, um, which is the rope joining myself and Sophia. We're always so proud of the work of the Academy. So
Really
please seek
too.
help. it's not just really at the,
Quite
every
profound.
stage comes with its own, yeah, every stage comes with its own challenges, with its own needs, really. It doesn't have to be challenges, but with their own needs. So there are times now when you're now thinking of how do I parent, how am I raising this child? So just being conscious of that, but not to overwhelm anyone, just take it a day at a time, a moment at a time sometimes is all some of us can afford. And I wish us happy holidays. And thank you for having me, Sophia.
Thank you, thank you. And when you talked about, I'm sorry, I'm going back. Like when you talked about different stages, just brought me to something I wanted to also talk about. The fact that if you're being intentional about motherhood, you also have to be conscious of um, parenting, because parenting is part of the whole spectrum, and being parenting means that you should also know that I think the best way is in the examples you exhibit. You have to be conscious about it. Mr. Tara would always say that children learn by the examples they see, and that's why he always linked that to discipline.
Absolutely.
Discipline is not what you do for the child, what you do with the child. So it's you knowing that you are the first role model this child is going to see, have. And so what examples am I showing this child? And in doing this, you have to just be intentional about it. Because most especially during the formative years, 0 to 8. So you have to seek the right village, the right resources, the right materials out there. So many things are out there, but are you looking for the right village that suits that clicks with what you want? And that's what something the academy speak on. Um, it's resources are out there. Our social media handles, the Tawa Kilami YouTube channel. We have programs still to do every week, monthly programs. We discuss different issues on different aspects of child protection and this, and that's something. If you want to, you're saying that you're not a perfect mother, but there's not a perfect mother, but you also want to this journey to find ease in this journey, and that's also finding the right network of people talking about it. And I'm so glad I
Absolutely.
had this conversation with you, and I'm so honored that you took out time out of this your Saturday. That's a very important day to come and join me for this conversation. I am honored, ma. I think I had a friend in university and teaches Urobo, and I learned Mingo, which means I'm on my knees.
Migo.
So I'm literally on my knees thanking you for agreeing to join
Thank
me
you.
here
Thank you
today.
for having me.
And I hope we'll have more conversations later on as
Absolutely.
our conversation continues. And I'm also going to be
Absolutely.
posting things about it on my LinkedIn channel, my LinkedIn page, Safe Yet, when I'm starting a series on intentional motherhood. So
All right.
thank
So
you,
we'll be
ma.
following that
I
bumper
also
to bumper.
thank you, ma. I also want to take time to thank everybody who took time out to join. My brothers, I can see them, Abdurrahman Ab- and Mohammed. So my brothers, they here. My boys, Setawa Kilami, I cannot thank him enough. He and my ED, Mr. Akilami, they are a powerhouse when it comes
Yeah.
to everything they do, and I am so grateful that here. Mrs. Queenet Enima is also here. She's a member of the academy. She's also big on emotional intelligence, child protection, and a lot of things. Mrs. Afolabi is here. She's also big on things. She's a member of the faculty. Gives her all to child kind of protection. My friend Dorcas is here with her husband. I'm so honored to have you here, and everybody else that are here. And I had a very interesting comment from somebody from LinkedIn. I think she also runs a platform for mothering, and because it fuck it's mothering. I don't know. Anyway, she's here and she's been making comments like definitely if you're a single mother, building a village for yourself is crucial. The thing about village that no one tells you is that you have to build it with intention. It's not just that it will not just magically happen. And she was basically the comments like, okay, we have comments saying the true connection is the most important thing. Okay, somebody's commending the host and our delectable guests for her presentation. Thank you so much to everybody that is here. Thank you, ma. Thank you all. And I
Thank you
will
so
be
much.
having
And
more
I wanted to say,
conversation.
as sorry, as Sophia
Yeah.
said, There's
Yeah.
all kinds of resources out there. You are not alone. You are not to blame. You are not in this on your own. There's tons and tons of resources on whatever it is you're struggling with. And we also run at Haven Advocacy a support group twice a month that you may want to take
Yeah.
advantage of, hang in there with other moms. Be sure that you are not going crazy, that this is actually common and there's help. Help is available. So you might want to tap into that as well. Um, you
Yes.
can
Can you
send me a
like
DM.
let us know
Or,
your social media handles, like how we can connect with you?
I think that
What's your social
Instagram.
media handles?
I think
Yes.
Instagram is like the fastest way to kind of reach me.
Yeah.
I'm Ayo Ayeni, at Ayo Ayeni one figure one, and I'm always
Okay.
just a DM away. Please reach out. You're not alone, and there is nothing you did to bring this upon yourself. We're also Haven Advocate is also on Instagram at thehaven.ng, thehaven.ng.
Okay.
Please reach out. You are not alone. Send a DM, and we will do the best that we can. And the support groups
Yes,
are
we
free,
can.
absolutely free.
Yes. Can you tell us some of the support groups? Just adding up
Also, we
that,
have
like
support
some of
groups
the
for
support groups you
moms.
recommend.
We have support group basically for moms. There is a support group for dads coming up because we figured there is no point dealing with half of the equation and leaving the other half, out in the cold. That is not available yet, but we also have this partnership with Postpartum Support International that is based in the US, and they have tons and tons of also free support groups that you can leverage on. But for the Niger, our very own, our dad support group is coming up very soon. We have support groups for moms. We have support groups for moms suffering, enduring fertility with fertility issues, NICU moms, and just basically new moms. So those are the support groups that we have for now, and they're all free, and you can register for as many as you want.
Hmm. Thank you so much. You hit on something new. The journey through waiting to have waiting to get into this journey. It's a lot
A
for
symposium
people.
conversation, as Mr. Akinlami
A
will say.
conversation that as in is something I would want to talk about later on. But I just want to put it out here. What is your advice for mothers who are in the journey of waiting? Like, I
Oh
feel
God,
sometimes that a lot of people say a lot of insensitive things during this journey. You post something, they're like, your tummy is looking big. Oh, finally, God has done it. This like you don't know the tussle in this journey, what they are going through. And I feel that we have to be sensitive to their feelings. And
absolutely.
I don't know, what is your advice to
I think that
women
I have no,
in
I
waiting?
honestly, I have no advice. I think that the
Yeah.
challenges of struggling with fertility is very multifaceted. It's different for different people. Sometimes it's very deep. So they are not only struggling with not having something they really desire. There's also the social factor, there's the family factor, there's all kinds of things going on. And for some people, there's also a medical background issue that they're dealing with. So it's very multifaceted. Mine is, again, the village, very important. So find people that you can relate with, find a community that is supportive. Just I think that again in this fertility issue, I think that it's really mostly a mind game. A big part of it is a mind game. So there is no single advice. It's just get within positive circles, people that will feed your soul and not tear you down, and get information about what's going on and your options, because many times there are options. And I guess we leave it as that. Because as Mr. Kilami said, this is a symposium
It's
conversation
a
on its own.
positive conversation.
So we'll leave
Yes,
it.
it is. Thank you so much, ma. I've been saying thank you, thank you, thank you. I see if I want to end and then I'll come back again. But this time is
We
final.
end
I
now.
mean,
We end
we
now.
end.
We buy
Thank
out.
you all. We are bowing to have a lovely, nice rest. And thank you,
Thank
thank
you.
you,
Happy
thank
holidays,
you.
everyone.
Yes. Happy holidays.